Okay, so here's the thing. The Federal Reserve just did something quietly at the beginning of December that basically nobody's talking about, but it changes literally everything about how your money works. And in about 2 weeks, they're about to make another move that could reshape your entire investment strategy. I'm talking stocks, real estate, your cash, all of it. The weird part? This is actually predictable. And if you know what's coming, you can either protect yourself or make serious money. Let me show you how. So what just happened? The Fed stopped pulling money out of the economy. Sounds boring, right? It's the opposite. For 3 years straight, they've been doing the financial equivalent of draining the pool to fight the heat. They raised interest rates like crazy, they let bonds disappear off their books, and they basically tried to suck cash out of the system. But December 1st just hit, and they pumped the brakes. They said, okay, we're done with that. No more draining. The balance sheet stays put. Why does this matter? Because what comes next is the real story. Here's what's actually happening under the hood, and this is the part most people miss. Think about the Fed like a bank that controls the whole money supply. When they want to inject cash into the economy, they do this thing called quantitative easing, or QE. Here's the process. Super simple. The Fed says, we need more money in the system. So they literally create digital dollars out of thin air. Not from a bank account, not from tax revenue. They just create them. New digital dollars that didn't exist yesterday. Then they take those brand new dollars and buy government bonds from the big banks. The banks hand over the bonds, and the Fed hands over fresh money. The banks suddenly have way more cash on their books. And what do banks do when they have cash? They lend it out. More loans, more credit, more money flowing into the real economy. Businesses borrow, people buy houses, people buy cars. Boom, money everywhere. That's it. That's the money printer. No ink, no paper, just digital creation and circulation. Now, let's jump to 2020 and 2021. The pandemic hits, and the Fed absolutely goes wild with this. They're not just printing money, they're printing trillions. Literally trillions of dollars in bonds get sucked onto the Fed's balance sheet with freshly created cash. At the same time, the government's sending out stimulus checks. Interest rates are basically zero. Borrowing is free. People are spending like crazy. So what do you have? Massive amounts of new money hitting the economy. More cash than ever before. Same amount of stuff to buy. You know what happens then? Prices explode. Too much money chasing the same goods means inflation goes through the roof. In summer 2022, inflation hit over 9%. That's not a coincidence. That's the direct result of the money printer running hot. Fast forward to late 2022. The Fed finally gets scared. Inflation's out of control, so they flip the script completely. They do two things at once. First, they raise interest rates fast and hard. Borrowing becomes expensive, people stop spending, the economy slows down. That's the opposite of what they were doing. Second, they start quantitative tightening, QT. They let all those bonds they bought just roll off. They don't replace them. They disappear back into thin air. It's like unprinting money. The Fed's balance sheet shrinks. Cash comes out of the system. This goes on for 3 straight years. All the way to December 1st of this year. That's how long they've been tightening. But here's where it gets interesting. The Fed just announced they're stopping. No more pulling money out. The balance sheet stays flat starting December 1st. You know what that signals? The Fed's worried. They're worried the system might run too low on cash. Banks are getting tight. The economy's slowing down, and they don't want the whole thing to freeze up. Stopping quantitative tightening is step 1. But it's basically saying, hey, we're about to shift gears again. And in about 2 weeks, December 9th and 10th, the Fed's meeting again. And they're probably going to cut interest rates by 0.25%. Why? Because layoffs are rising. Unemployment just hit 4.4%. The job market's getting shaky. And the Fed wants to avoid a recession. When they cut rates, borrowing gets cheaper again. And when borrowing gets cheaper, money starts flowing. That's the setup for quantitative easing to come back. Okay, so if all this is predictable, what does it mean for your portfolio? This is where most people get it wrong. When the Fed starts printing money again, and I'm not saying it's happening tomorrow, but we're closer than we've been in years, assets go up. I'm talking stocks, real estate, anything that holds value tends to benefit when cash is cheap and plentiful. That's why the stock market loves QE. Businesses can borrow cheap. They can spend. They can expand. Profits go up. Stock prices go up. It's a beautiful thing for equity investors. But here's the catch that kills people. While assets are going up, your dollar is going down. More money in the system means each dollar you have is worth less. It sounds backwards, But that's how it works. So yes, stocks might rise, real estate might boom. But if you're sitting on cash, you're losing buying power every single day. Your paycheck doesn't stretch as far. Rent's still high. Gas prices stay elevated. That doesn't change overnight. That's why preparation is everything right now. Here's exactly what to do. First, build a cash cushion. Not under your mattress. I'm talking in a high-yield savings account or short-term treasuries. Something that earns a little bit while it sits there. Aim for 6 months of living expenses, maybe more. You need a buffer because when money starts printing again, unexpected things happen. Second, stay away from bad debt. High-interest credit card debt, car loans, anything where you're paying interest on something that doesn't go up in value, that debt becomes an anchor when inflation's rising and your income stays the same. Cut it now while rates are still elevated. Third, own cash flow assets. This is where the real protection is. Buy businesses, buy rental property, buy dividend stocks and ETFs, anything that pays you every month, every quarter, every year. When the Fed prints money and inflation rises, these assets often go up too, and they're paying you the whole time. You're not just sitting there hoping the price appreciates. And here's the thing about the stock market specifically. When QE comes back, growth stocks and tech stocks tend to run hard. Why? Because cheap money means people take more risks. They buy the flashy stuff. They bet on the future. But here's what a lot of people do wrong. They chase those rockets after they've already taken off. Don't do that. The time to position yourself is now, before the Fed makes the official call. Buy good companies. Buy index funds. Buy the boring blue chips that pay dividends. Build a portfolio now that benefits from cheap money without being dependent on perfect timing. And whatever you do, don't try to time the Fed. Don't watch the news, make a guess about what Powell's going to do, and then shuffle your portfolio every time he speaks. That's how people lose money. The Fed's pretty predictable if you understand the mechanics, but day-to-day volatility? That's noise. Last thing, your personal finances matter more than anything. I don't care if the stock market is up 50%, if your debt is crushing you, your savings are non-existent, and you're stressed all the time. Get your house in order first. Build that cash position, kill that bad debt, then, and only then, start thinking about how to position your investments for what's coming next. The Fed is about to reset the money system again, and the people who understand how it works, they're going to protect themselves. And the people who really understand it, they're going to make money. You now know how this works. You know what's probably coming. You know how to prepare. So here's my question for you. Are you just going to watch it happen, or are you going to position yourself? That's what separates people who weather these cycles and people who get blindsided. The information's out there. The patterns are clear. The moves are predictable. The question is what you're going to do with it. And hey, I hope this video helps you on your quest for profits. Catch you on the next one.